You know what the creepiest scene in the whole Breaking Bad universe actually is? It's not the one where Walt watches Jane die. It's not the desert after the shootout with the Nazis. It's the scene right after Jesse and Walt kidnap Saul Goodman. Jesse Pinkman is sitting in their RV and he asks Saul something like, "Yeah, but who even is this Lalo guy?" And Saul just freezes. He gives some short answer to make Jesse drop it and changes the subject. Go rewatch that moment now. After the finale of Better Call Saul, the hair on your arms is going to stand up. Saul does this super long pause, his eyes glaze over, and he forces out one single word. Nobody. That's it. Topic closed, he changes the subject. Let me show you how this works under the hood. A couple years before that, in episode 7 of season 6 of the prequel, Howard Hamlin is standing in Jimmy and Kim's living room. A guy he's never seen before walks up behind him. Howard turns around and asks, "And who are you?" And Lalo Salamanca, with that signature smirk of his, looks him dead in the eye and answers, "Me? I'm nobody." And a few seconds later, he blows Howard's brains out. Do you get what that means? When Saul, years later, is sitting in his office, he's running his whole life through his head, and in panic situations, he answers Jesse's simple little question about Lalo short and sharp. No time to pick his words. He sees it. Right in front of his eyes, he's seeing Howard Hamlin's blood spreading across his own carpet again. The word nobody that's not a brush off for Jesse. That's the last thing Lalo said before he destroyed Jimmy Mogill as a person, once and for all. Saul Goodman, for the rest of his life, is afraid to say that name out loud. Because to him, Lalo isn't a person. Lalo is that 1 second after which there's a dead, innocent coworker on your floor, and your worst nightmare is standing in your room saying, "Let's talk." This one stuck with me for a long time. This isn't an Easter egg. This is full-blown character trauma that Vince Gilligan and Peter Gould carried through 2 whole shows. When I started digging into this episode, the picture I got was this. The episode is literally packed with details you missed on first watch, and every single one of them changes how you see the finale. Hey everyone, you're on Toxic Walter, and today we're breaking down plan and execution piece by piece. Let's go. And here's where it gets really good. Remember the start of the episode? In the HHM office, there's this intern, some guy named Carrie, hauling boxes of soda cans. He drops them, the cans get all shaken up, and Howard walks in, all friendly. "Here, let me help." He picks up a can, and he starts slowly spinning it in his hand. He explains the old trick to the intern. If you spin it like this, the foam won't shoot out when you crack it open. The scene lasts like 30 seconds. Feels like a throwaway. I watched it 5 times and didn't catch it. And this is the moment the puzzle clicks. At the very end of the episode, in that final scene, Lalo pulls a gun out from under his jacket, and he starts slowly, in a smooth circular motion, screwing a silencer onto the barrel. The exact same wrist movement, same rhythm, same angle. It's literally the same hand choreography. This isn't me reading too much into it. This is a full-on visual rhyme. The gesture Howard uses to be kind to a coworker using a trick that Chuck Mogill taught him turns into the gesture an assassin uses to prep his weapon to murder Howard himself. And here's the part that hurts. Chuck is Jimmy's brother. He's the entire reason Jimmy became who he became. The whole story is encoded in one shot. Chuck taught Howard the trick, Howard taught the intern, and meanwhile, Jimmy, who hates Chuck, is cooking up the scheme that's going to bring Lalo to the door with a gun. All on one thread, all from one point. There's something else happening in parallel. Remember the scene of the failed mediation? When Caldera's drug is hitting Howard's bloodstream, and he's starting to act like a junkie in withdrawal. Cinematographer Marshall Adams shoots Howard in long, slow profile shots. And if you know the whole show, this lands right in your chest. In these shots, Howard looks like Chuck. Same wire rim glasses, same suit, same hairstyle, same tense profile. And he's telling the absolute truth, just like Chuck at that hearing about the battery. He's describing every single step of the con, the fake detective, the fake photos, the actor playing the judge. He hasn't lost it. He's literally the only person in the room who's seeing reality, and nobody's listening. They think he's crazy. If you really sit with it, Jimmy is destroying Chuck for the second time in his life. Only this time, Chuck is Howard. It's just devastating. And the last thing, after which everything just clicked in my head. Remember this moment, we'll come back to it. In Better Call Saul, Jimmy never ever wears a collar pin or a tie pin. He thinks it's a Howard thing, a flex for self-obsessed corporate lawyers. But in Breaking Bad, Saul Goodman, the loud, flashy Saul with the stars and stripes wallpaper, is constantly walking around with one of those pins. It's part of his work outfit. Nobody comes out and explains this. But there's an ironclad rule in this universe. Walter White, after killing Crazy 8, cut the crusts off his bread for the rest of his life, because Crazy 8 made his sandwiches that way. When the main character kills somebody innocent, he subconsciously takes on their habit. Saul Goodman, in his loud, tacky suit, wears Howard Hamlin's pin on his collar every single day until the end of his career. That's his punishment. A piece of the man he killed that he literally carries around on his body. This is a good place to step back for a second. This isn't even the first time Gilligan and Gould have done something like this. If you lay Plan and Execution next to the episode Ozymandias from Breaking Bad, you get a symmetry that'll make you sick. In Ozymandias, Walt finally saves his millions out in the desert. Triumph. Mission accomplished. Then Hank Schrader shows up, the guy who annoyed viewers for 5 seasons because he couldn't catch his own brother-in-law. And suddenly he turned out to be the only moral anchor in the whole show. Hank exposes Walt, tells him the truth to his face. And right then, out of nowhere, Jack Welker's neo-Nazis pull up and shoot Hank in the head mid-sentence. Now keep going. Watch Plan and Execution. Jimmy and Kim finally get their money from the Sandpiper Crossing case. Triumph. Mission accomplished. Howard Hamlin shows up, the guy who annoyed viewers for 5 seasons and suddenly turned out to be the only moral anchor in the whole show. Howard exposes Jimmy and Kim, tells them the truth to their face. And right then, out of nowhere, Lalo Salamanca appears and shoots Howard in the head mid-sentence. They literally rewrote the same scene. Same visual beats, same dialogue move even. Hank, seconds before the shot, tells Walt, "You're the smartest guy I ever met." Howard, seconds before the shot, tells Kim, "You have one of the great legal minds I know." Same thing. And both get cut off mid-word. Hank gets out, "Do what you've gotta da." Howard gets out. There's really no need. This isn't a coincidence. The writers are flat out telling you you're watching the same tragedy over again. Only now the main villain isn't Walt. It's Jimmy and Kim. And the innocent man they dragged into this room with their harmless little cons is lying on the floor. Since we're on it, I gotta explain how Lalo even ends up at Jimmy's door in the first place. This thread starts with one disgusting little detail that everybody overlooks. Lalo is sitting in a sewer drain across the street from Gus's laundry. He's been sitting there for days. And at some point, a cockroach runs past him. Here's what's actually happening under the hood. In this scene, something clicks in Lalo's head. Back in season 5, the moment they first met, Lalo called Jimmy La Cucaracha, cockroach. He said it with respect because Jimmy got him out of jail and survived a situation nobody survives. And now Lalo is staring at this cockroach in an underground tunnel and he's thinking, I've got a pawn, a lawyer who has a line to Mike, a lawyer who survives any kind of dirt. A real physical cockroach kicks off the plan in Lalo's head, a plan that, a few hours later, ends with Howard's brains on a carpet. Nightmare stuff. Right after that, Lalo pulls off his big multi-step move. He calls paralyzed Hector at the nursing home. They communicate by alphabet through the ring of a desk bell. Hector confirms each letter, and at some point there's a quiet click on the line. Lalo, whose paranoia is basically a superpower, instantly gets it. Gus's people are listening in. And without missing a beat, he starts talking loud and confident. "Hold on, Uncle. I do have proof. I know where it is. I'll see you soon." It's a bluff, a pure bluff for the wiretap. And Mike Airman Trout, who's listening on the other end, buys it completely. Mike pulls every single piece of security onto Gus's house, and he pulls the surveillance off all the low-priority targets, including Jimmy and Kim's apartment. If we translate that to plain English dry, Technical Mike is opening the door for Lalo to get to Howard with his own hands. This is considered Mike's biggest professional mistake in the whole show. The guy whose whole weapon is being smart got played by a direct threat, and Mike fell for it. There's an obvious parallel here. Remember, in season 3, Mike was burning the midnight oil trying to find the body of the Good Samaritan that innocent driver Hector had shot? Mike was holding on to his code of honor with everything he had, trying to give the family at least some kind of closure. And now, after Howard's death, Mike personally is going to stage Howard's suicide. He's going to plant cocaine in Howard's car. He's going to take away any answers from Howard's wife and co-workers forever. The thing he gave himself to 3 seasons ago to help that's now his job just flipped to the negative. He became exactly what he hated. And the creepiest part, to him, Howard is the exact same Good Samaritan as that driver was. An innocent person in the wrong place. Now here's a twist you won't see coming. In the final scene, when Howard is already knocking on the door, Jimmy and Kim are watching TV. There's an old Hollywood movie from 1950 on the screen called Born Yesterday. Guess what the plot is? A corrupt businessman forces his girlfriend to marry him for one specific reason: to get spousal privilege, so she can't testify against him in court, so they can't rat each other out. If you remember season 5 of Better Call Saul, that is exactly how Jimmy and Kim got married. In the episode JMM, they straight up say it out loud, they need this marriage for legal protection, to cover their backs because Jimmy is getting into cartel business, and these two are sitting there watching a movie that's literally showing their own marriage as a metaphor. Except in the movie, it's about a corrupt businessman and a clueless girl, and in their life, both of them are Leopold and Loeb, like Howard himself called them in his monologue. Two smart, broken people who got off on destroying somebody else's life for fun. To really hammer it in later, when he sends Kim out on the job and ties Saul up, he grabs the TV remote and cranks up the volume of that same movie, so the neighbors don't hear the screaming. The movie that was a symbol of Jimmy and Kim's intellectual closeness and cozy nights and turns into the audio cover for a murder. And their shared love of old cinema finally becomes part of the evidence. The next part didn't even click for me right away. In the background of this movie, there's dialogue. Somebody mentions Thomas Paine, the 18th century American thinker. And somebody mentions Rabbit Marinville, a baseball player from the early 20th century. Seems like random names, right? Now stay with me, this is the key part. Benjamin Bonneville, an explorer connected to Paine, gave his name to a car, the Pontiac Bonneville, the car Kim Wexler drives in season 6. And Rabbit Marinville's record was later broken by Pete Rose, whose nickname was Charlie Hustle, which is exactly what Howard Hamlin used to call young Jimmy Mogill in those early seasons, in that affectionate, condescending way. Charlie Hustle, the soundtrack of the movie that Howard is being murdered to, through two hidden references, points at Kim and Jimmy by their personal nicknames, and nobody calls it out. It's just sitting there in the audio track for the people unhinged enough to go looking. How they even come up with this stuff, I do not know. On the visual side, I gotta talk about the candle. In the final scene, there's a regular candle burning on Kim's table. It flickers twice. The first time a second before Howard knocks on the door. The second time, way harder, a second before Lalo silently steps into the hallway. If you've seen Jurassic Park, you know where this is from. Remember the trembling glass of water before the T-Rex shows up? It's the exact same film reference. Only this time the predator isn't a dinosaur, it's a guy who is officially dead, but in reality is materializing out of the shadow like a spirit of vengeance. And Gilligan and Gould did this with one tiny background detail. No music, no jump scare, just a candle flame flickering. Let me bridge to the next thing. Director Thomas Schnauz has another move. When Howard, after the failed mediation, panics and runs down the stairs of the HHM office, the camera shoots him from above, in a spiral. That's a direct reference to Alfred Hitchcock's Vertigo. The spiral shot is the visual language of falling, of psychological collapse. Howard, in this shot, is literally falling into the abyss. He doesn't know yet that in a few hours he's going to be lying on somebody else's floor, but the camera already knows. The scene is shot from the point of view of the death waiting for him at the bottom. Now let me show you the mechanics from the inside. In the actual murder scene, Schnauz originally wanted to cut in a bunch of close-ups of Bob Odenkirk's eyes to convey Jimmy's growing horror. They shot all of those close-ups, and in editing, Schnauz and the editor realized it just wasn't working. The pacing was breaking, the drama was getting in the way of the fear, and so they made a brilliant call. They cut all of it. They left only the huge, slowly creeping shadow of Lalo on the wall behind Howard, and the faces of Jimmy and Kim, where you can read that something irreversible is about to happen. That's it. No dramatic close-ups, no big psychological reactions. Just a shadow growing. Schnauz later said the simple version was enough to sell the fear. Less is more. Old saying, but in this scene it's working at full power. Here's a detail that's going to give you goosebumps. Howard didn't show up to their apartment empty-handed. He brought a bottle of crazy expensive scotch, the Mucal N. If you watched the show carefully, you remember that's Chuck McGill's favorite whiskey. Howard puts that bottle on the table, and a couple minutes later his blood starts slowly spreading across the floor, literally a few feet away from it. This isn't just a visual metaphor anymore. The Mukal N bottle in this scene is the invisible ghost of the older brother, silently watching the finale. They didn't pull the trigger. But Chuck always said that Jimmy with a law degree is a chimp with a machine gun, blowing up everything around him. And now an innocent man's blood is running across their carpet, right under the eyes of that ghost. By the way, this drags one more thing in with it. In Season 3, Jimmy forged a document in Chuck's office. He changed an address from 1261 to 1216. One after the Magna Carta, like Chuck yelled at the hearing later. And one of those numerology nerds noticed something. If you take 1216 and subtract the number of this episode, 607, you get 609. Season 6, Episode 9. And what happens in Episode 6-9? Kim leaves Jimmy. And the episode does a time jump. And the actual Saul Goodman shows up. 1216, the document where Jimmy first crossed the legal line, numerologically points to the episode where Jimmy Mo-Gill stops existing for good. Maybe it's a coincidence. Maybe it's not. Considering they were already encoding the season premiere date into the numbers on police cars, I wouldn't write it off. Let's close the loop. In the finale, the universe full-on circles back. Howard's body after Lalo kills him, where do you think it ends up? Mike takes it and buries it in one shared pit, together with Lalo's own corpse, who Gus is going to kill in the next episode. And that pit then gets poured over with concrete, and on top of that concrete, they build the superlab. That superlab, the one where, a few years later, Walter White is going to be cooking meth. The one where in the Breaking Bad episode Fly, Walt is going to be obsessively chasing one fly around and freaking out about contamination. Right above two rotting bodies, a polished lawyer and a cold-blooded killer under Walt's feet. The whole time. This episode retroactively changes everything. Every single shot in that lab is now creepy because you know what's under the floor. Let's pull it all into one picture. If your brain just slid a little bit same. When I started putting all of this together, it hit me that plan and execution isn't even an episode. It's the death of Jimmy Mo-Gill. The guy we loved for 6 seasons ends in this episode. Saul Goodman steps in to take his place, and literally with his entire suit, with Howard's pin, with that pause when Lalo's name comes up, he carries the guilt for that night all the way to Omaha. The con they thought was funny materialized the actual Reaper inside their own apartment. And that night you can't take back. Rewatching the show after seeing all of this, it's a completely different feeling. Every little thing whispers, and if you're feeling the same pull to fall back into this universe and pick apart the next episodes with me, you know where to find me on Toxic Walter, this is all I do.